Welcome to Religion Story YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Turkey, a country that once stood as the heart of the Islamic Caliphate for centuries, now stands as a dynamic secular republic. But behind the modernization and the vibrant energy of Istanbul, one big question remains. What does Islam in Turkey look like today? Is it rising again, or is its meaning being redefined? In this video, we'll explore the shifting landscape of religious identity in Turkey, from classrooms, to mosques, to the halls of power. Istanbul, October 5, 2025. Amid the echoing call to prayer from thousands of mosques across Turkey, the nation long dubbed the gatekeeper between East and West continues to wrestle with a lingering question: what does Islam look like in modern Turkey? Since the founding of the Republic in 1923 by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, Turkey established itself as a secular state, separating religion from government affairs. Yet over time, that dividing line has grown increasingly blurred, especially in the past 2 decades under the leadership of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and the AKP, a party with roots in political Islam. Today, around 95% of Turks identify as Muslim, predominantly Sunni of the Hanafi school. But behind that number lies a wide spectrum of religiosity, ranging from those who strictly follow Islamic law to those who treat Islam more as a cultural identity than a religious one. A new generation, a new identity. In major cities like Istanbul, Ankara, and Izmir, younger generations are increasingly vocal about their preference for a more liberal or secular lifestyle. Surveys have shown a growing number of people identifying as non-practicing, agnostic, or even atheist, views that were largely taboo just a few decades ago. Young people today aren't rejecting religion entirely, but they're more critical, said Dr. Elif Demir, a sociologist of religion at Boğaziçi University. They no longer accept conservative interpretations at face value. They want an Islam that can engage with modernity. The power of Diyanet and the politicization of Islam. At the heart of Turkey's religious structure is the Diyanet, or the Directorate of Religious Affairs, which acts as the state's main religious authority. It oversees millions of imams, mosques, and standardized weekly sermons broadcast nationwide. But Diyanet's role has also stirred controversy. Critics argue the institution has become increasingly politicized, especially when its messages appear to align closely with government policy. Earlier this year, Diyanet publicly praised the government's decision to reconvert several Byzantine-era buildings, such as the Hagia Sophia, from museums into active mosques. This symbolism matters, said Ali Karaca, a Diyanet spokesperson in Istanbul. It is a way to honor our Islamic history and affirm that Turkey is not ashamed of its Muslim identity. Tensions between secular principles and religious aspirations remain strong. A national poll earlier this year revealed that 55% of Muslim AKP voters support the implementation of Sharia-based laws, though a majority of the general public opposes such measures. This country was built on secular values, said Ais Kaya, a human rights activist and advocate for the separation of religion and state. When the government brings religion too far into the public sphere, it can jeopardize the rights of minorities and women. The Alevite community, often described as progressive Muslims, still faces marginalization. So too do Christian, Jewish, and non-religious communities, many of whom feel insufficiently protected by the state. There are growing concerns about rising religious conservatism in education and media. Still, some see the resurgence of religious sentiment as a natural process of national identity reorientation following decades of political turmoil, economic struggles, and geopolitical upheaval in the Middle East. The future of Islam in Turkey. Will Turkey grow more religious, or swing back toward rigid secularism? The answer may not be black and white. What's clear is that Turkey is in the midst of redefining its relationship with Islam, not to return to the past, but to carve out a new place in an increasingly complex world. Islam in Turkey is not just about worship, said Dr. Demir. It's about identity, politics, history, and the future. And that debate is far from over. Istanbul, October 6, 2025. On the campus of Marmara University in Istanbul, a group of hijab-wearing students can be seen in animated conversation with classmates who choose not to cover their hair. A scene that once sparked controversy in the early 2000s has now become part of Turkey's increasingly complex social reality. The right to wear the hijab, symbol of freedom. The ban on wearing headscarves in public universities and government offices was officially lifted in 2013. Since then, the number of women wearing the hijab in public spaces has grown significantly. For many, it is an expression of personal freedom. "I don't wear the hijab out of pressure," says Zeynep, 22, a law student. "It's a personal choice. I want to be a devout lawyer who also defends justice." But for others, the policy shift has created a reverse pressure. In some conservative environments, women who choose not to wear the hijab often feel marginalized or judged for not being Muslim enough. "I've been asked why I haven't repented just because I don't wear a headscarf," says Alif, an art student. "But my faith is nobody else's business." Religious education, between spirituality and indoctrination. Over the past 2 decades, the number of Imam Hatip schools, Islamic-based secondary schools originally intended to train future religious leaders, has increased dramatically. Today, these schools are also a popular choice for general education. Government statistics show that over 20% of high school students are now enrolled in Imam Hatip institutions. Critics see this as part of a broader Islamization of education. Supporters, however, reject that notion. Imam Hatip schools are not centers of indoctrination, says the principal of an Imam Hatip school in Bursa. "We teach moral values, discipline, and a balanced curriculum." Still, independent observers have raised concerns about rising conservatism within school environments. In several instances, religious instructors have reportedly made sexist comments, expressed intolerance toward minorities, or denied modern scientific theories. Geopolitics and Islamic diplomacy. Turkey's foreign policy under President Erdogan has increasingly emphasized its role as a defender of global Muslim causes from Palestine to Syrian refugees. This influence is visible in Turkey's funding of grand mosques across Africa, the Balkans, and Western Europe. At the same time, Ankara positions itself against transnational Islamist groups deemed radical such as Hizmet, FETÖ, ISIS, and other extremist factions. However, this dual role has not always been well received internationally. At home, some view these moves as symbolic politics meant to distract from domestic challenges like unemployment, inflation, and deepening social polarization. Turkey stands at a critical crossroads. On one hand, the resurgence of Islamic identity has given voice to citizens who felt marginalized by decades of secular elite dominance. On the other, many worry that the blending of religion and state could undermine pluralism and democracy. A recent independent poll found that 47% of Turks are concerned about increasing state control over religious interpretation, particularly when mosque sermons start echoing political messages aligned with the government. "I don't want the state to teach me how to be a Muslim," says Murat, 34, a small business owner in Konya. "Religion is about the heart, not propaganda." Turkey and Islam, a future still unwritten. From conservative towns in Anatolia to liberal cafes in Istanbul's Cihangir district, conversations around Islam in Turkey continue to evolve, clashing, coexisting, and seeking new space to breathe. Will Turkey become a model for moderate democratic Islam in the Muslim world? Or will it slide into a form of conservatism that restricts freedom of expression? What's happening in Turkey today is not just about religion, concludes Dr. Elif Demir. It's a national search for identity in the face of changing times, caught between tradition, globalization, and a deep desire to coexist. Islam in Turkey today is no longer just about rituals or symbols, it's part of a long struggle for identity, caught between the legacy of the Caliphate and the challenges of the modern world. Amid the constant pull between secularism, spirituality, and politics, the Turkish people continue to search for their own middle path. Thanks for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this in-depth discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. See you in the next one with another topic just as fascinating. Note The names, images, and/or videos displayed in this content have been anonymized or altered to protect the privacy and identities of the parties involved.